Hello and welcome to another episode of Performance Anxiety. My name is Joan Elizabeth. I'm here with my co-host Lisa Anderson, and today we're going to be talking about a very sexy topic, and that topic is, of course, stage management.
People need to know that you do comedy sometimes for I don't know, can you say for a living?
For my own amusement.
Yeah.
Sometimes they pay me. I don't know why.
They would not pay me. You are here to entertain me.
Okay, cool.
I'm not paying you either, by the way.
No, you're not. That's okay.
So what are we talking about for stage management? What do
For
we
stage
want our
management?
lovely audience to know about stage management?
Well, you've done a lot of stage management. I've done some.
Yeah.
I guess first we should talk about what it is.
I'd probably
Because
be
anytime I've stage managed a show, the one question I get is, "Great, what is that?" What?
Yeah. Well, I would say too, we're coming from a community theater
Yes.
type of. So anybody that is in the professional world or in college for stage managing, please note that we are community theater.
Yeah.
And so that's where our experience is coming from.
Mhm.
And if you really want to know the proper definition of all of that, those involved can leave us comments because we love comments and we love to learn. But you can also Google. That's what it's there for.
Yeah.
I mean, you can listen to us and get our opinion. But so stage managing is basically kind of, it comes after, in my opinion, the assistant director. So it's kind of that third man on the totem pole as far as when the production is being put together. The way I was taught, the stage manager is basically there from start to finish.
Mhm.
And for every performance. And, every director works a little bit differently. But the way I was originally taught was that the stage manager is there to take stage blocking notes and everything like that. That way, if an actor forgets to write down something or the director forgets to write down something, that's what the stage manager is there for.
Yeah.
And then same with, any of the cues when it's getting time to what they call the show. So the stage manager is the person that tells the music when to go, and everybody that has a headset backstage tells them when to put the props on and all of that kind of stuff. When to raise a curtain, when to lower something, sound. That's what I was looking for. Not just music, but sound, and lighting. They're there to call the lighting. So they're there to make sure that everything runs the way it was meant to run. If you're going to
Right.
put it in a tiny little package,
Yeah.
yeah, and they have to corral everybody.
Yeah, they have to. The stage manager has to herd all the cats and make sure
Yes.
that they, do some version of what they're supposed to be doing, and that,
Yes.
that it doesn't go haywire. And once the director leaves, because once the show goes up, the director's like, "All right, it's all yours. Bye.
Here you go. See you later.
I'm off
Yeah.
to the next job."
Yep.
And you're like, "Great,
That's
all right."
fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. And don't up because my name's on it, not
Yeah.
yours. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will hunt you
And I will
down.
hunt you down. But you know what? We get them back because anytime they come flying into the booth, we just kick them right out.
Yeah, go.
I think that was one of my favorite parts. Was
Oh.
get out of my booth? What are you doing here?
Did you have to do that a lot?
I did. Yeah, there was a couple of times we joked, like the director and I had a pretty good rapport. I think there was only one time where he looked at me and he's like, "You can't kick me out of this booth." And I'm like, "Fine."
Right.
It gets distracting, and typically what I have found that people that are like, if it's the director or somebody else that's involved in the show, but not necessarily in the booth portion of it, they tend to get really nervous. And you're like, you need to just chill out because things happen. And that's what the stage manager is there for. They're there to help direct everybody else when, hits the fan.
Mhm.
And it will.
Yeah. I think just from my experience working with stage managers, working with different stage managers and being one, and also ASMing quite a few shows, assistant stage managing. So if I use acronyms, that's what that means. The stage manager has to be organized.
Yes.
be very good at note taking, making sure that they have everything written down.
Yep.
For their own sanity too.
Yes.
And kind of be level-headed.
Absolutely.
Be really level-headed and able to operate in those chaotic moments, especially like when you get to tech.
Yes, yes. And being able to make sure that the tech crew is being silent and doing their job efficiently.
Absolutely.
Because if you as the stage manager are going, this is taking too long, the audience for sure is saying that it's taking too long. As a general rule, now this isn't going to be every single show, every single thing, because some scenes are bigger, but you don't want a scene change to take longer than 30 seconds if possible.
Yeah.
Because the audience will start shifting in their seat. They'll start whispering.
Oh, you'll lose your audience so fast.
So fast.
Yeah.
So fast. So, those big giant scene changes where like the whole scene changes and all of that kind of stuff, if you've ever seen professional theater, you know, like whenever I've gone to see professional theater after being a stage manager, I'm going, come on, you can do it, because you're just like rooting it on and that stage manager is back there making sure that everything, and all the tech that deals with it. I don't know how else to say this, but you have to kind of be bossy. Like you have to be able to be firm and tell people what to do and not take any because there's no time for it. Stage managers are also responsible for making sure that everybody's there on time.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure that everybody has checked in. Assistant ASMs, they're there to help with that as well. But you don't always get an ASM.
Yeah.
Especially in community theater.
Yeah, and it's speaking to that issue of making sure everyone gets there on time. That's a particular challenge in community theater because you're mostly dealing with volunteer actors and technical crew.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like money that you can hold over their heads.
No.
You can't be like, you're done if you don't get here on time.
And so because there's usually not an understudy either in community theater.
Yeah. There's not someone waiting to, come on and who has all the lines and all the blocking memorized who can just come on and take your place. So it's you have to handle it kind of a little gingerly.
So I was really good at leading and being fine, but confrontation is and always has been a difficult thing for me.
Same.
And so there was one particular show that was not the actors were becoming very haughty, were thinking themselves above everybody else. And they were showing it in the way that they were, they were coming late. They were, going out and sitting in the audience. And so it was really the first time that I had to like talk to the cast. I didn't do it as confidently as I wanted to, but what I did get across was that if they were going to be late, I had no problems going out on the stage and telling the audience who was late and why the show was being held up. And so that kind of stopped people from being late.
Public humiliation.
Yeah.
Get them that way.
you can only have so much, but it was really disappointing, I think, because I had worked with a lot of those actors before, so I knew they knew better, and I think a lot of that came down to they had done a couple of shows back to back, and even though when it came down to it in my talk, like the director sided with me, but I think the director kind of helped create that environment initially anyway. It was different environment than what I was used to working with. Anyway, that's community theater though. Like you said, there's not much that you can hold over their heads.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot you can threaten them with.
No.
Sounds
Quit,
bad, but
quit treating people like and and actually come and do the job you volunteered to do.
Just get here on time.
Just get here on time.
Come on.
Stop being in character out in the audience before the show. You know,
Oh
full
my
makeup
God.
and dress, sitting out and talking to people.
Come on now.
Yeah, I know. That was not
Get
pleasant,
your ass
you know?
backstage.
Yeah. So, but I've most of the shows I've done, everybody's been absolutely wonderful.
Yeah.
I think in our last episode I talked about making somebody cry during a big show and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That's always horrible. But other than that, I think
Yeah.
it's all been pretty good. How about you?
I mean, I've stage managed a couple of shows. Like I said, I've ASM'd a number of shows, and it's not something I want to do again. I don't think. Unless
I'd stage manage again.
It's not my favorite job that I've done in the theater.
Now, you've done directing. Do you like directing more than stage managing, or do you not? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I like directing because especially if I have a good stage manager, I don't have to write things down.
And that's what a stage manager is for.
Like note taking. I don't like it at all.
Now, I've worked with directors that were like, you don't need to be here every night. It's the actor's responsibility to keep their blocking.
Yeah. And I tend to agree with that.
Yeah.
I just know if I'm SM, I feel like I need to make sure that I know everything.
That's the thing. Like I want to be there. I don't want to miss those little nuances and things, because that helps me call a better show.
Yeah. It's almost like a compulsion, like to just to be aware of everything that's going on.
Yeah. And if blocking gets changed, I want to know, and I want to know why. Why was this changed? Was it just because somebody forgot and nobody could remember what happened last time? Or was it, for a very specific reason? Because that scene could affect how I call the show. So what did your notes look like in your scripts? Like, did you have little codes for yourself on how you wrote?
Yeah. I use a lot of symbols because I'm a very visual person.
Okay.
So for like lighting cues, I started like putting them, and I color code things too. So
okay.
Because my handwriting is not good because I write fast.
Yeah.
Especially like the last show I stage managed, the director, he's a New York director, and he's very quick, and he talks very fast, and he moves very fast. So I'm just like, so I go back and look at my notes, and I'm like, I can't even read this. So I had to learn quickly to like use letters and code, and you pick up on that pretty quickly. Yeah. Like, USR is upstage right, and that kind of
right. Yeah, I used a lot of that stuff too. What I think I used to do quite often was when it got really crazy like that, and my notes were insane from that night, I would go back and basically rewrite them, and then like during tech rehearsal week, because we'd be erasing and moving things around, and your script just gets horrible. Like usually the day before opening, when everything's set and it's going to go that way, like I would spend the day and have a second script that I would actually go back through and rewrite.
Yeah, that's
stuff,
smart.
I think I'd used highlighter color codes. I think if I remember right, it's been a few years since I've stage managed, but I used to like write like L whatever number it was for lighting, and S for whatever sound it was, and
I think I used because sound cues for that particular show too were changing so much during tech, and like getting revised and put in different spots. I was doing like writing the number cue and then a circle around it, because like I'm like, okay, that's sound, 'cause that's how and then it's like a little rectangle box around the lighting cue. I don't know why, but for some reason that was just how I was able to look at it and go, okay, I know what that is, and I know what that is, and and then I'd have to erase, so I had to get used to writing in pencil.
Yes, that's the big. You cannot write in pen.
No.
I think I wrote in pen when I would write into my new script, so that I could see it easier in the low light. And then of course,
don't change anything.
Yeah, don't change anything. No, this is an orange highlighter. That one's green. That one's pink. And I would have certain places where I would cue people silently. So I knew a cue was coming up, and I wanted to warn them, okay, warning, cue, whatever. And I would hold my finger up, and then I would point and whatever. Sometimes it got a little crazy. Sometimes I would point to the wrong person, and luckily they knew what I was talking about because they had their own script. So the correct person would go. I think the craziest I ever did on community theater was when I would have to run the light board at the same time.
Oh God. Yeah,
You know, and the only reason it was crazy because it's programmed in, so it's not like I needed to do multiple things other than hit the go button. But my brain, when I'm saying go, my finger's like, oh, go, and you hit it. So I had to know where the back button was too, because the lights would be constantly dimming because I'd be telling sound to go and I would hit the button. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
You know? So that was a little much for my brain to be able to handle.
Like, yeah, that's a lot because you're calling the show and then you have to, you know, hit the go button at the same time.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's not like they were task like that,
right? It's not like they're big shows, but at the same time, you're just like, my brain is not. Yeah, does not function that way.
I don't know how people stage manage like big musicals with huge casts.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think we talked about the one show that I didn't stage manage back at the community college that I went to in the last show. But if you didn't watch that, that's where I learned. Like, we had a director from New York. It must be like he was really hyper and fast too. So that you know,
so fast.
They do. They talk so fast, and but I think it was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and he directed and wanted lighting and movement literally on music cues and stuff like that. I can't even imagine stage managing that big of a show. I mean, that was a huge cast. And it was all volunteer, but it was a huge cast.
Yeah.
You know, if you've never seen Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor, it's a huge cast, big scenes, you know.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine needing to direct on that. I've only ever stage managed the one musical that we talked about last time, which was Little Shop of Horrors, but it was not needed on every note.
Yeah.
The director didn't do that. So that was the only reason I agreed to do it. I didn't want to.
Yeah. So like on actual musical notes.
Yeah, you had to read music on his. Like the cues, you know how you write the cue on the word, right? Because that's okay. When they say this, the light goes out, you know, or when they take this step, the light changes to this color.
That is fascinating and horrifying to me.
Yeah, so he would do that on actual notes of the music.
I would rather have like a script that's in another language and have to
and try to figure it out. Yeah,
call cues based on on the words.
Yeah,
I would rather like you give me a show that's all in Italian and be like.
Here you go.
Then have to look at musical notes because that just looks like
it's funny.
Like
it's funny that you say that because I used to sing and I sang in Italian and other languages and stuff, you know, and pretended I was reading my music. Like
yeah.
But I was talking to another person. So as you know, and other people might, but I have a local podcast and magazine. And I was talking to one of the directors. So we have a facility called the Riley Arts Center. You know that. Anybody else out there might not know that. But and they have a musical educational department. And I was talking to their director of education over there. And she was telling me about how like symbols, it's like reading, and she can actually determine people's reading levels based on how well they can read music, like how well they learn to read music. And it's the brain trying to flip symbols and different things like that. So she can kind of gauge where they're at in their reading based off of how well they're picking up learning how to read music.
Interesting.
And I'm a slow reader. You know, like I'm not a speed reader at all. It takes me a while to process, which is probably why I never really read music well. Like I could read it enough to get by, but not well and stuff. So that I was like, that makes sense in my head. But yeah, no, I would never want to stage manage a musical.
I can't even imagine how stressful, because I remember the last show that I ASM'd for was Beauty and the Beast. And like that alone was enough. That was enough for me to go, I don't want to do that again. It wasn't, to be clear, it wasn't a bad experience.
Yeah.
You know, the actors were great. Actually, the actors, our crew was wonderful. Like we had a really great group.
Yeah.
It's just a big monstrosity of a
huge
show. And it's so much because I was ASM. So I'm on headset. And
were you backstage on a headset?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, on deck crew. And so I can I can feel the stress radiating off of the stage manager from the booth. Like I can
Yes.
feel her coming through the
Yeah.
like, and she's holding it together well. But you know, I'm like, oh, rigging better not up again.
Yeah.
Because she gonna be back there and it's not
Yes.
gonna be nice.
Yes.
So-
Well, and here's the thing too. Like if you think back to one of the first shows that I stage managed was Romeo and Juliet.
Mm.
And they actually learned how to do, they had a real professional sword fight a person come in to train them how to do sword fighting, okay? And that's just not something that's usually done in community theater.
Yeah, like a fight choreographer.
Thank you. That's what
Yeah.
I was looking for. And and they used real swords.
Oh, like
Yeah, so they
okay.
yes, so they had to have the choreography done correctly, and they had to do it correct every
so
night.
they didn't actually stab each other.
Well, yeah, and one night that was not the case.
Uh-oh.
It was during that lovely fight scene between Tybalt and what's his name?
Mercutio?
Yes, and Tybalt got stabbed in the hand.
That's not supposed to happen.
That's not supposed to happen.
The other guy's supposed to die.
Yeah, and I did not know that he had gotten stabbed, and until he was off stage, and it came over my mic that Tybalt is bleeding.
Uh-oh.
Curtain comes up because I had already called it, and there's a puddle of blood on the stage because there was no scene change in that. It was just lights. I don't even think the curtain came up.
Yeah.
The lights came up. And so it was just that kind of a quick thing. And out comes Juliet in this white, floor-length, rented nightgown.
Oh.
Twirling. And I don't even have the brain capacity at this point to see if Tybalt needs an ambulance or anything. I am just watching Juliet twirl on stage in horror. Luckily, she saw the blood and twirled away.
Oh, thank God.
From it.
Oh.
But my God, I don't think I've ever held my breath quite as hard as I did that particular scene.
That's a good Juliet right there.
That was a very good Juliet. Yes.
Yeah. I don't even need to know if she was a good actress or not.
She was just
or if she knew
good,
all her lines. She twirled right around that little
puddle of blood. That's that. Oh my gosh.
She
Yes.
knew.
Yes.
Good on her.
Yes. And so she she's seeing the blood on stage for the first time because she came in on the opposite side that Tybalt went out. So it's not like there was no time for any of the crew to let her know there's blood on stage. It's like it all just happened so quickly.
Yeah.
But once I saw, once that scene was over, and I'm trying to in the middle of the scene, I finally caught my breath enough when I saw her go around it, but I was still watching very, my heart in my throat kind of a thing for the whole scene. But I think I did radio down to see if Tybalt needed medical care. But they were able to do it with just the first aid kit, luckily it was just a cut on his hand.
Okay,
but
so he didn't need stitches.
No, as far as I know, he didn't need stitches. And
right.
it's, I should say remember, because that was close to 20 years ago. So
yeah.
But what did you ever have any of that type of those moments when you were stage managing where you were just holding your breath?
I'm sure I did. I'd have to think a little bit. So not like injury related, but in community theater, oftentimes you have a lot of old technology.
Yeah.
And it has a mind of its own. So
yes.
there was one night during a show, one of the two shows that I was stage managing, the bigger one, that we had a lot of sound cues.
Okay.
Even though it was a straight play, there were a lot of sound cues because it was like it was a satire, so there was a lot of like jokes that were tied to the sound cues. So we had like a train sound cue that kept coming up and up. And,
sure.
So my soundboard op tells me I don't know why. He's like, it's not working. And I'm like what? He's like, he's like, the computer just decided to update itself and then it just shut off and now the sound isn't working. And and he's got this like this was during COVID too, so we're in
Oh
masks,
gosh, yeah.
and I can just see his eyes are like, I don't know what to do.
And was he just a sound? Because I don't know if people know, like when you're in community theater, a lot of times, like you'll have someone program everything, all your boards, all your stuff.
Yeah.
And then the people that are running it really don't know anything more than the button that they hit to make it go.
Yeah,
Was
no, he was not the sound designer. So, but I mean, experienced. But yeah, it was this whole new like freak thing that decided to happen.
Ugh.
So yeah, he had to get on the phone with the PM of the theater, who's a really nice man, but he had to come down, and like it was just a matter of him like turning it off and on again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. He'll
like
kick the
like 3 times.
Oh gosh.
And so he just like turned it off.
How many cues did you miss?
Not very many.
Oh, thank God.
Just a few, but it was still one of those like, because like if it just hadn't worked for the rest of the show, it would have been horrible. And
God.
You know, luckily our cast was so good that I think they were kind of starting to come up with potential solutions backstage.
Yeah.
Because sometimes these things just happen and it's not your fault.
No, you just have to go with it.
Yeah. You're like, well, you know, I don't know how to sweet talk this old machine and, you know, make it work. But, you know, he knew, and he came in and he's looking and he's like going, you bitch, come on, work for me, come on. And like, he's just like turning it off, turning it back on. And then finally, after like the 3rd time, it worked. And we were like, oh my God.
Thank God.
And that's the kind of stuff that at the same time feels triumphant. It's also, it just fills you with dread and anxiety because you're like, I don't know why it's not working. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know why.
Yeah, those are the worst. So this is a little bit shorter show today. So I kind of want to wrap up. I don't know about you, but like talking about what was the most difficult show that you ever had to call.
Well, it was that show.
It was that show.
It was Around the World in 80 Days.
Okay.
So it was a very fast moving show, very fast paced. And the 2 shows that I've called are a much smaller production of Waiting for Godot, which was at a small, very small repertory theater, and then this show, which was at a much larger community theater. And because there were so many sound cues and so many lighting for a straight play, especially. Yeah. Usually it's like, go. 5 minutes later, go. 10 minutes later, go. Oh, intermission. Yeah. Oh, we had 3 cues. No, but like, I got tossed into the fire with that one, and there were like probably, like, I don't know. I might be exaggerating this, but I remember like 500 cues.
I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be. I think, you know, and people are going to see how bad my memory is. But what was it? 79 steps, or what's that?
39
30
steps.
I had somewhere. I knew there was a 9 in steps in there somewhere. Like,
well
I didn't want to just come out and be like 69 steps because yeah, 69
it might as well
steps.
have been, you know, 39,000 steps, because that's a quick moving.
That is a quick moving show. I did call that show.
Holy shit!
Yeah, that one was probably the most difficult one I've ever called because the cues are just unbelievable between sounds and lights. And we did it in the black box, and they were all over the audience.
I remember seeing that one, and they were like crawling in the audience, and
crawling in the audience everywhere. So lights were everywhere, sounds were everywhere. It was crazy. I've never called a show like that before, and that one I felt like there had to have been 500 or 1,000 cues in that one too.
If it wasn't, it felt like it.
Yeah,
and that's how Around the World in 80 Days felt. I was like, what is going on? But after a while, the cool thing about it, I will say, is that when you do a show of that magnitude and that pace, after a while, when you get the hang of it, you almost start to feel like a conductor.
Yes. Yeah.
Like you kind of feel like you're doing something sort of musical. Like
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're up there and you know, like if you have sound on one side and you have the lighting people on your other side and you're just sitting there and you're like, and go. And this cue, go.
Yeah.
And this cue. And you're just like back and forth and I don't know about you, but I would point to them as well in case they couldn't hear me on the mic or, you know, and on most of the booths that I were in, they were small enough where you didn't need to really say anything anyway. So you did hand stuff, but yeah, you start going like a conductor.
You start kind of moving your hands around and you're like, oh, I'm like, you know, this is the closest I'll get to making music, but this is great. Like, and there is a kind of elegance to that synergy and you're in charge of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the cool thing you kind of realize too with community theater, with volunteer theater, is like after a while you're like, this is like kids. We're like kids doing this. Like like the parents have kind of I say that like not like we're all children, but like the parents being like the staff that were overseeing all the creation of all this stuff, and the designers and all those people are like gone now. And it's like the kids are like, well, we're doing the show now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're making it work.
We're making it
without
work.
them
Oh my
hovering
God.
and telling us what to do, and like there's something kind of cool about that. And then
There is.
One of the biggest compliments is my lead actor in that show. Like randomly one night, I think this is a good note to start to wrap up on.
Yeah.
He like walked out to me and he's like, Joan, master of stage. And I was like, you know what? I like that.
That's nice.
And I think we should sort of rename stage manager, because manager makes it feel like I'm the MOD, like I'm like it's retail or something.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Not that that's not important, but you know.
Yeah, it's a different vibe in theater. I don't know. Yeah.
It's like I'm the stage manager. Like, you know.
Should definitely be the stage master.
But yeah,
that's
like
it.
master of stage feels very ceremonial. And like,
absolutely.
Yeah, it feels very, very theatrical, and I think we should start referring to the stage manager as the master of stage.
And done. Everybody watching that?
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah. Comment if you agree.
Yeah, absolutely. And tell us your stories. Like, we definitely want to hear about if you've been a stage manager before, what's your experience? What are some of your favorite shows that you've called? What are some of your most difficult shows? As an actor, if you've ever worked with, what are your favorite things that you've seen? You know, sound people, lighting board, and all that kind of stuff. So, so comment below all those fun stories. We'd love to hear them. Don't forget to hit the like button. If you enjoy our content, please go ahead and subscribe to our channel as well. Thank you, everybody, for joining. We look forward to seeing you on the next Performance Anxiety.